Welcome to another exciting episode of the Heavy Muscle Radio Show. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm here with John Romano. Chris Aceto will be joining us on this March 22nd, 2021 evening or afternoon, I should say, here on Monday. We're actually doing this live. And, once again, John, I didn't miss a radio show. We're going on 11 and a half years or something like that. And even though I had surgery last Wednesday for my thyroid, they said, you may not be able to speak. My voice did not let me down.
Show the scar. Show the scar. Oh yeah.
It's so crazy what they do with this now is they don't even stitch you, John. They glue it. They actually super glue it. Yeah.
Crazy glue, right? Super glue.
Yeah, they use some kind of special glue and they put a little steri strip on it and that's it. And I went home on Wednesday after the surgery. I was under for 5.5 hours. However, it was a long surgery.
You must have felt rested when you got up.
I was exhausted actually afterwards, but I think I hadn't slept for a couple of days prior to that. So probably it took me a couple of days to catch up, but they put me under and they give you this Versed shot before you go into the surgery room, which was kind of cool because sometimes they roll you into the operating room, sometimes stone sober, which is the worst thing because you're a nervous wreck, So they gave me this Versed shot, which is supposed to relax me. I didn't feel anything from it personally, and I told them when I got into the operating room, I said, I really don't feel whatever you gave me. I said, not that it matters. I'm okay. I know you're going to knock me out. They're like, nah, we'll give you a little more. We want you to be comfortable. And next thing I know, they were like shaking me to I thought they were telling me that we were going to start the surgery. They were already done. So
they were already done.
I have no recollection of anything after me telling them that I didn't feel the Versed shot. So 5.5 hours later, I woke up. I don't remember anything.
That's incredible. They kept you under that long. Well, because they had to leave. They left you there waiting while they tested the thing, right?
They took half my thyroid out like they originally intended because they were worried that maybe it was too close to my trachea, which it wasn't, the little nodule. So They took it out and then they said, well, let's take a lymph node out and test the lymph node. And if the lymph node comes back, obviously nothing in there, then we'll just close them up and that'll be it. That's an hour and a half surgery. But of course, Dave Palumbo has got to have, complications. So I had a lymph node that had some cells in it. So now what they had to do is they go back and they take the rest of the gland out, and then the whole chain of lymph nodes they took out because they're in pathology now. I'll find out probably this week what the deal is with it, and then more than likely, I would say 100% chance I'm going to be getting radioactive iodine at some point in the future, which is basically exactly what it sounds like. It's radioactive iodine, and the only cells in our body that take up iodine are thyroid cells, including thyroid cancer cells. So they put that into your body. You basically have to be in isolation for 2 weeks, 2 days, excuse me, because you're radioactive essentially. So you don't want to, you don't want the radioactivity to go onto your kids and screw their thyroids or your pets or anything like that. So I got to basically isolate in a hotel or something like that for 2 days. And any cells that remain in my body will be destroyed. Oh, this Chris. What's up, Chris?
Hey.
I was just telling John the procedure that I was going through my surgery.
Yeah, I was listening to it.
Okay. And so that seems to be the game plan at this point. They put me on replacement thyroid immediately, T4. I'm questioning it though, because, they have different forms of thyroid replacement. Obviously, the most common is just like synthetic T4, which you put that in your body converts what it needs to T3. However, your thyroid, believe it or not, gland is made up of calcitonin cells too. There's another hormone that's produced. They don't even know what it does really. Calcitonin, if your calcium levels in your bloodstream are too high, it lowers it a little bit. But they don't really know. Like they find that when people don't have calcitonin cells, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really affect anything. So there must be some kind of other regulation or regulatory system for calcium in the body other than calcitonin. Now, the parathyroid glands, which are found next to the thyroid, they seem to you have 4 of them. They kept 3 of mine. One somehow got taken out. Maybe it was attached to something. And that actually helps you absorb calcium. You need those. Those are important. But the calcitonin producing cells don't seem to be as important at lowering calcium. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I know they have me on taking a calcium supplement. They're like, take 2 Tums with, twice a day. I'm thinking Tums, that's got to be the worst form of calcium of all time, right?
Right.
It's like chalk. It's calcium carbonate.
They taste good though.
They do taste good. I've been eating them anyway, but I'm taking my own V-Mineralize as well.
Right. So when do you know you're all good?
I don't know. That's a good question. So what they do is they're going to obviously test these nodes. If they come back positive or negative, I'm still going to get radioactive iodine. It's just going to matter of how much they're going to give me. once they do that, now this is the interesting, once they give you that, then they can scan your whole body and they'll see where the radioactive iodine stayed. In other words, if I had a cell in my foot for some reason that was cancer cell or a thyroid cell migrated there, and the radioactive iodine nailed it there, you'll see it glow in my foot. Or if you see it in my, wherever else it might go.
You're going to scan your whole body then.
Yeah. Now that's good for people who might have had like metastasis, where maybe you have like a nodule growing someplace else in your body that had broken off, so they could actually go in there and take it out. So they actually know it's there, but hopefully, I only had a couple cells, the interesting thing, it was very small. It was only like a centimeter, this thing, but it must have been there for a couple of years, because for it to break off and for there to be some cells in my lymph nodes, you would think that it was probably not there for a very short period of time. Plus, it was very calcified, which usually indicates that it's been there for a while too.
So you didn't ask to take it home?
No, I didn't want to take it home with me. No. I didn't think I had any good use of it.
You got to put it in a jar, showed it to Logan. He would have loved it.
I guess selling cancer nodules on eBay could become some kind of I'm sure there'll be something that, it's in the future, like cancer cells will be like, they'll figure out how to use them to do something like make growth hormone or something like that in your house or something like that. People will be like, we'll have like petri dishes of cancer cells, like, cranking out GH in their bathroom or something like that.
You grow them like chia pets over the holiday. So now play the antithesis forward. Let's say you never got that scan, you never found this out. What would have been down the road the next manifestation?
Good question. That's a good question. And it's valid. Imagine I had never gotten the heart scan and they had never notated it on the heart scan that I actually had that little thyroid nodule, because they're not required if they're under a centimeter to even notate them. So this person, whoever read the report of my aorta, just happened to see it and notated it. And no one even told me to go get it tested. So I did that on my own volition. So thank God, because it was cells were already breaking off this thing. So imagine, like you said, 5 years from now, who knows? It could have been all over my body for all I know. Now, luckily, thyroid cancer, even when it spreads, is very curable because of this whole radioactive iodine thing that they give you.
Right.
If you kind of target these cells. But believe me, I would be a lot more nervous if I had a nodule growing out of my neck, and I felt it, because mine was buried in my gland. You couldn't even palpate it the way it was.
Huh.
So it could have been a disaster. So I definitely had an angel sitting on my shoulder, without a doubt, in that sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 2 out of 3 people on this show are cancer survivors. That's amazing.
No, 3 out of 4.
That's right, because we got
Valentino
and this specific show. Chris.
3 out of 3. I don't mean to bring it up, but 3 out of 3 survived Blackman, but I don't know about Valentino. 4.
A different kind of cancer.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. So, this is like crazy. I mean, now, do you think this has anything to do with just luck of the draw, or are you reading anything else?
You know what? I went through every scenario in my head already. Like, did I cause this somehow? Yeah. Because I eat so well and I take supplements, and I'm like, what am I missing here? How much more neurotic can I get than I already am, with everything I do? So I don't think, like I said, unless this nodule's been there for like 5 years and I didn't know about it, I don't think that's the case. I think the thyroid gland happens to be an accumulator of waste, radiation, heavy metals, all toxicity seem to accumulate in that stupid gland.
Sure.
And if you have a predisposition, to develop any kind of cancer in your body, genetically, and I think I do in my family, that could be a trigger for sure. So I don't think the growth hormone that I used, I haven't used growth hormone for like over 5 years. I don't think that was like the stuff I used early in my career, or testosterone and all that stuff. I don't think that had anything to do with it. I just don't. It doesn't seem like cause and effect. It would have happened a lot earlier, and so I don't believe that that's the case. But who really knows at the end of the day what causes anything to happen?
Well, I'm sure there's a band of bro scientists who are disagreeing with you right now.
Yeah, everyone's got their own theories, from iodine deficiencies and this and that. I just think, people don't understand how many nutritional supplements I take on a daily basis. I don't think I'm nutritionally devoid of anything. I think I just had, a genetic predisposition. I think the fact that maybe my immune system wasn't great because I haven't been sleeping a lot the last several years. And who knows, it could have just, made me more vulnerable. Maybe because your immune system should eat up cancer cells, we have a natural immunity against them.
Right, of course.
So, but if, maybe it's not, it's a little suppressed or whatever, and, it doesn't catch anything. Or maybe just the time clock went off. We all know this happens.
Glutathione, Dave. Glutathione with polyphenols.
Right. Why did Chris's little mole turn into a melanoma?
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. His whole life he has this thing,
Chris, do you still eat good and, supplements?
I don't take one supplement and I don't eat good at all. I don't eat good at all. And I don't take any. I have not taken a vitamin in 20 years.
Did you get my coffee isolized, by the way?
I did. It's you know what? I'm waiting for the kids to go through the they love the pumpkin spice.
You got to try that. I want you to try it though. The coffee.
I will. I'm going to.
The coffee is insane.
You tried it? Yeah. You know what? It's not really. It's really like a coffee cream. It's like a coffee with cream type of thing. It's not like a black coffee.
We should start the show, Dave, because my wife is gonna get pissed.
Laughing does hurt my neck. I will say that much. So.
Who's gonna buy coffee flavored protein?
Yeah. Well, listen. I bought the other day a Coke coffee. It's Coke and coffee mixed. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, it's so up my alley for Diet Coke drinkers.
What is it called?
Coffee drinkers. It's Dave. It's like in the Red Bull section. It's Coke and coffee mixed.
Wow.
A low sugar Coke, not a Diet Coke.
No. Okay.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
You need a little sugar in there.
Yeah.
Do you know what is the most bang for the buck? Pre-workout, energy shot, whatever you want to call it. You got to go to Miami, but in all over Miami, there's these little hole in the wall windows, all over the place, and they sell coffee. There's all different kinds of coffees. You got to ask for a colada, and a colada is sugar and espresso, but it's the way they do it.
Yeah,
dude, I'm telling you.
Yeah,
they serve it in a little styrofoam.
Probably 90% sugar, the whole thing, right?
Whatever it is, with these little mini cups, and you're supposed to drink the little mini cup of it. It's like a thimble.
Well, sign Sergio. He's Hispanic and Cuban coffee.
He's Cuban, right?
He's Cuban. Him and Labrada were twins. We'll do a story, John. We'll do a story, and we'll call it. How do you say brothers? Amosas, hermanos. Hermanos. We'll call it hermanos, like me and my brother. Like me and we were close. We were twins. They're not twins. They're almost twins.
From another mother. That's funny.
Dave, don't be afraid to bring up the Dan Solomon thing. You see how I slapped him down today?
He's gone.
Where'd he go? Check his thyroid.
I got a bad connection. He'll come back. Yeah. So whatever happened to, do you remember your whole end of your deal with Blackman?
God. Listen, yeah. I am an expertise, John, at writing on the wall. I am an expertise at red flags. And when I asked him a question, I know specifically when he turned on me.
Well, when was it? What was it?
He turned on me when I had been saying, I got this cookbook I want to do for bodybuilding. I want to do this cookbook for bodybuilding. I want to do this cookbook for bodybuilding. He said, yeah, we'll do it. Yeah. And talk. So me and Laura went to the New York Pro, Night of the Champions, and we were at the Twin Lab booth, and he came and he picked up the book, and he went like this. What's this? And I said, we weren't waiting on you, Steve. That's the book we had made. He went like this.
That's him.
and then a few months later, John, I said, Steve, this is Dave, are we live?
We're live.
Do you remember what year that was? Because I think that's why he published my cookbook.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he rushed to that. But that was the end. But, I have to say, he paid me well. So I have I never had any bones to whatever the, balls to break. It's what I saw later in the much later, when you guys were heavily involved, when like I would prep people and he would get in contact with them and he would try to use me as leverage to get done what he wanted to get done. And I would always do this. Okay, if he's going to use me for leverage, then I'm going to hold his feet to the fire. For example, one time he wanted to shoot Tarek El Satui.
I remember that.
I remember Tarek, yeah.
I remember that.
And it was in Dallas, and I didn't have a rental car. There was no Uber. And it's like, Steve, the guy has no money. And
didn't he win the first ARC MD? Did we have some kind of like remember that challenge we had?
Yeah.
He may have. He may have, but it was a pro show. And
no, we had a muscle development challenge.
You did.
Like that, yeah.
So
online challenge.
The story goes that he couldn't get to the gym, which was Dallas is so spread out. It's not like in Manhattan,
Right.
where you do the New York Pro and you just jump in a cab and you're there in 2 minutes. I said, he don't have any money. I will pay for him to jump in the cab. It's going to be like $100 each way. I mean, it's like 20. It's like forever.
Right.
20 minutes, 20 miles. So he said, yeah, just send me an invoice when you get back.
Oh boy, yeah.
Oh God.
Still waiting for that invoice to be paid.
I invoiced him over the principal every day for like 60 days. Every day on the fax, I would send the invoice, and I would follow up and say to what was the secretary's name at the time?
Manda at the time.
No, it was still.
She answered the phone, Amanda, downstairs.
And I would say, there's this invoice.
No, it was the heavy set girl. What was her name? No, it was the other one who did the treasurer. What was her name?
Oh, the one before that, Cara.
I liked her. Denise.
So it was only $188. I can afford for Tarek El Satui to have him go in on a cab, and I can pay for it myself and just. I'm not going to miss $188. But the principle is you called me like 450 times in, like an 8-hour period, begging me to get Tarek to this photo shoot, which was detrimental to, how he was going to do in the show. Cause it's like a day or two before the show. And he did it. And he said, I will reimburse you. So, I mean, it's the little things,
famous
right?
Last words. Yeah.
It's the little things. I mean, those I can multiply by like 5, and of course the why cut back, Dave, was the that
was the crowning gem of all the things I ever said.
After all of that, he sends him this suck up email, right?
Yeah,
that was. I hope you don't mind how thoroughly Dave disseminated that email among.
Yeah. So Dave, is Kai? Let me ask you the question: is Kai coming back? What was the cryptic message?
So I'm going to pull up this thing. I don't know.
Dan Solomon.
I don't know if this is the right.
I want to hear about this.
So Dan Solomon, although people think he's my cousin, he's not, and he is a very. I like Dan Solomon a lot, and he's done a lot for a lot of people, myself included. Meaning, I'm just thrilled, Dave, that he gave me the best seats in the history that I ever got to a professional bodybuilding show at the Olympia this past year. Free.
Farnsworth is watching.
Free. Hey, Derek. Derek, I haven't checked the pictures yet. I'm like out straight all day.
He thought he'd check in.
So again, spit the gum out because people are complaining about your gum.
Well, people complain about everything, dude. When we start charging money, Dave, when we start charging money for the show, then I'll spit the gum out.
That response was wrong. You should have just said "fuck him" and kept chewing the gum.
Yeah, no, I do it for Dave.
He does it for me because it annoys me. Right, tell us this. So you explain what the whole synthesis of this was.
No, somebody tagged me on that Instagram post by. Dan that said, look who I'm having, who I'm sitting down with. Well, you know what? So that nobody's misquoted. Once you put it up, God forbid I misquote someone. People say, you left out the word is. And it was past tense, not, so you can put it up, Dave. Can you put it up on that?
I'll put it up.
Well, it depends on what your definition of is.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So explain. I'm putting it up right now. You explain.
Okay. So it was a meeting with Kai
Again.
and the question was asked. Let's see. Visited with my friend Kai today. Can you guess what we were discussing? And I said, "Great news, Dan. Can you go visit Shawn?"
Right. Chris want Shawn Rhoden to be in the show since he wants to actually compete. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and since he did win the Mr. Olympia once.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the backstory, of course, to that is, and then Sergio chimed in. What did Sergio say?
Oh, Sergio said something also about
Well, you got to get it right, Dave, because it's dead on. He said, "I would like to see that conversation with someone who's been wanting to compete in that show."
Right. Implying Shawn Rhoden. Right. Implying Shawn Rhoden.
Right.
Yeah. So Dan responded, "What makes you think that Kai and I weren't discussing favorite restaurants? I don't recall sharing what were we discussing." Of course, I replied, the idea that you're making a post and asking people what the world thinks you are discussing is an open invitation on social media to take a guess.
Right.
Sure. That's what I did. And the bodybuilding world seems to think I'm a good guesser by the overwhelming responses everywhere. It seems as though a couple nerves were hit. The clear message, regardless of your intent, the clear message is the fans who financially support everyone, all of us, want to see Shawn Rhoden on the stage.
Yes.
So what they took from that is the same thing I took from it is, what about Shawn?
Right. Now that just in response, that picture, if you look, it looks like they're in the Redcon studios, and obviously Kai now is working for Aaron at Redcon, and Dan must have gone to I guess visit the studios, and maybe so Kai was just there. So maybe Dan obviously teased that picture, but probably no Olympia talk was even mentioned. But who knows?
Oh,
maybe
come on, dude.
I'm sure Dan said, but
Come
Dan said on this show that he was never going to bring it up to Kai again. He was sick of Kai's, antics.
Well, you know what? Whether you're right, you're 100% right. He said he'd never bring it up again. But that said, what do you think he was? What do you think he was dangling out there? Dan was in this case.
Do you think Dan was there to ask him, or do you think Aaron was there to shock him?
No. You missed it, Dave.
What?
It's got nothing to do with why they were there, when they were there. It's got to do with the context of Dan came out and said, "What do you think we're talking about?"
Right.
Well, what's anyone really care? They don't care about the Redcon chocolate bar that you eat 30 minutes before you train has 30 grams of protein and 300 milligrams of caffeine. They only care about Kai competing.
Right.
You know that, and that's why you dangled it out there.
Hey, look, everything is optics, and there's it's Occam's razor. What's the most logical? What's the most logical reason? If you're going to throw it out there in social media, visited by the predominantly a bodybuilding audience, what do you think the implication is going to be?
Yeah.
So if that's not what Dan wanted, he should never have said such a thing or brought something up.
Well, I'm sure Dan wants Kai in the show, but I don't know if Kai wants to go in the show. Why? Of all the years, the last couple of years was so wide open. Now we have Ramy in there, who's a monster that probably Kai would have trouble beating. Maybe can't beat at this point. And now you think Kai's going to come back when Ramy's sitting in the Olympia throne? I don't think so. Do you?
I don't think so.
Chris?
No.
I mean, it would be a great battle. I mean, it'd be nice to see him up there, but maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe he wouldn't even place top 2. I don't know.
It doesn't, at this point, it does not actually matter if you were the promoter where Kai places. Just the idea that, for his fan base,
sure,
that he's going to compete, or the idea for Olympia ticket sales, in person, watching, just the excitement. I mean, because it's the nostalgia of it it's still Kai Green, one of the greatest bodybuilders in the last, whatever.
Decade or 2 decades.
And who has proven himself on stage. the idea that he'd be in the show is tremendous for the show. So I don't think that it needs to be discussed how would he place. Just the excitement that he'd be up there is a plus for the show. So I know the flip side is, Dan did say, I'll never, aside from this post where he's, playing both sides, but I'll never speak with, inviting.
Dan's a promoter. He's got to play both sides.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. At the end of the day, that's
Don
like
King, man. You got to get the best people.
That's right.
There,
Do you think Don King? I was just going to say Don King or Dana White would seriously pass on bringing somebody back who the fans would love to see? I mean,
what if Lou Ferrigno wanted to make a comeback? Would you say no?
Even if you're sitting down there and saying, "What do you think we're talking about?" Even in fun, you say, "Kai, you're looking big.
The people want to see you, right? Yeah.
People want to see you. Yeah,
Maybe Kai brought it up.
He probably did. He probably teased it. What do you think, Dan? What do you think? How would I do at the Olympia?
Maybe Dan is sticking to his guns, and it was Kai. Maybe Aaron brought it up. Who was in the room?
No, I didn't bring it up.
He could have brought up. I don't think Kai has any intention of coming back, to be honest with you. But I do think at this point, if Shawn Rhoden's trial is not going to take place before the Olympia at this point, okay, they should let this poor guy compete already, because this is ridiculous.
Dave, there's some such thing as called the right to a speedy trial in this country.
Yeah, I don't know.
We are 3 years. We are at 3 years, and
he's like Mike Tyson and Ben Muhammad Ali. Who lost his best 3 years.
This is not rocket science. We are at 3 years marks, and people ask the wrong questions. They say, "Well, what's happening?" My answer is, "Well, it's been 3 years." Yeah. Don't you think something, if it was going to happen, was going to happen by now?
Yep.
And I do not see, and I have not seen from day one, a rally cry from anyone to support Shawn Rhoden. I had someone once in the Tampa Pro Show telling me, that he was praying for Shawn Rhoden, and I support him. I said, outside your private prayers, how are you supporting him? That's important. But vocally, it's nice to step up. This was somebody well known in the industry to step up and say how you support him, because
that's some of the top guys. Yeah, I'd like to see Jay or guys like that say, "Hey, you know what? The guy has been out of the sport for 2.5 years. He's waiting. At this point, let the guy compete it, because you know what? Listen, it's not his fault that that he's not going to trial at this point.
You have no egg on your face if you are the promoter of this sport and you say, I am inviting Shawn and he's coming,
right?
Because when asked, it's like, this guy has been off the stage for 3 years, and we don't have to ask these rhetorical questions. Well, what is the lawyer doing? What is the state of Utah doing? Whose job it is to throw this guy into the slammer at a time that is, appropriate. It's 3 years. I don't know anyone, who has been, Dave, people who have been accused of a crime. Does it take 3 years to go to trial?
I've never seen this. Not for a violent crime. John, your wife's a lawyer. What does she say about this?
This is the problem you're posing with this 3 years, that it's probably the doing of the defense team. In most criminal cases, the more time that goes by, the better it is for the defense.
Of course it is. It's like saying to your son, for God's sakes, Max, when he's, did you take this? And it's 10 minutes after he took it versus 3 months later. He said, Dad, I can't remember if I was in your wallet or not.
Exactly.
I might have been home that day, but where were you, Dad?
That's 100% right. So that's why. So you can't, on one hand, say what's taking so long, when on the other hand is you're the one who's causing it to take that long.
Right.
Yeah.
So
listen, if they have the evidence, damn well they would have brought it.
I'm not saying it. What I'm saying is the state could have been ready for trial. And that's what they usually say, because they have the evidence, and it's the defense that says, "Well, we got to have a continuance. I need an expert. I got to send this out. I'm looking for this person's thing." And they postpone.
Obviously, COVID too didn't help that whole.
COVID didn't help. That's another huge factor, because all the courts were closed. So the 3 years, Chris. I mean, it's unfortunately for his bodybuilding career, short term, it's not good. But long term, playing the end game, the more time that goes by, the better for Shawn.
Well, let me just bring it full circle, because that was whether it was the intent of the post or not of the intent of the post. The people took away, many, myself included, was that this was like a sit down, whether it be for some part of the sit down, some part of the post was to say, hey, Kai, want to compete again? What do you think we're talking about? What do you think, everyone bodybuilding world who loves gossip? What do you think we're talking about? Okay, you're leaving up to conjecture about, begging Kai to come back to do another Olympia run. Whereas that opens up the door to, if you're talking to Kai, who has not been on the stage at the Olympia stage since 2014, right? Where, if you want to get right down to it, almost got in a fist fight with Mr. Olympia on stage.
Right.
And, nobody told him he can't compete again. And then yet you have a very serious crime against someone 3 years ago that's going nowhere, apparently. The idea is, well, why don't you have that sit down with someone else? Maybe he has, but you know what? The sit down has not moved the needle to forward where, Mr. Olympia is back competing. Remember, Shawn is, people say, hey, Shawn, you're coming back to come back and get your crown back. Shawn Rhoden tells people, I'm the defending Mr. Olympia, actually.
Yeah, he never lost his crown, right?
I'm the defending. And I didn't win against a B lineup.
No.
He beat Phil Heath just like Big Ramy did this past time. So that would be,
well, which version do you think was better, Dave?
I don't know. Well, both of them weren't the best Phil Heaths we'd seen, but probably the Phil Heath that Rhoden beat was a little better, I would say.
Well,
here's the issue.
Before that, just because I want to follow up on Chris's thing.
Yeah.
What I think, Chris, in Dan's defense, to play devil's advocate, I think the concept of Shawn Rhoden is like not on anybody's mind because they all think he's off limits, so to speak. So he's not even thinking about him, So I think if his thought process was wow, let me see what's going to be the most inclusive gathering I could get here, it would be slam dunk. He would be going after, current Mr. Olympia. So, I think it's just a mindset issue. I really don't. I would never put it on Dan to be doing something disingenuous.
I agree with you. And to add to that, listen, John. To add to that, I agree with you, or not appreciate you playing devil's advocate, but you always need to play devil's advocate. And the flip side is, if I'm Dan Solomon and I'm Jake Wood, there is a reason why not to invite him back, and they have, and I've heard those reasons, and those reasons were very valid the first year, very valid. Mm-hmm. The second year, they seemed like they were somewhat plausible. Now, because we're 3 years removed, it seems like those reasons, while still have some validity, they're watered down by the time element.
Yes.
And if there was, it's a small world. We have heard negative Zippo about, did you hear about the case?
I have a bet. Let me be even devil's advocate again, Chris. What about you? Do you think if Shawn was invited that he would be judged fairly?
I do. I absolutely do. I have said for the last, I do actually. I think someone on the panel may, not everyone's going to be, perfectly. I'm looking at a bodybuilding. I think, people will bring some type of bias in, but I think if Shawn, looked like Shawn, they're going to place him like he deserves to place in that lineup.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're pretty fair with that in terms of who's ever up there gets usually judged the way they should. Now,
so it seems like Dave, 3 years removed, there is not a lot of public. There is not a public movement or no one from the sport, whoever quote no one is moving this narrative forward. Shawn's competing in the show.
How come Shawn hasn't gone out there and really put it out there? Hey, I want to compete. I would if I were him at this point. After 3 years,
Dave,
I'd be like, look, I deserve to be able to do my.
Dave, he was begging to compete when Brandon won.
No, I remember that, but I'm just saying
he was out there because you know what? How much can you grovel?
Well, he doesn't have to grovel. He can have.
It's not his responsibility. Yeah. You are the person. If you want to know now, yes, I'll call him up. You want to get him on the show? He wants to compete.
Yeah.
And he wakes up every morning wanting to compete. People who know that, who can make things happen for him, already know that. Right. So it's not Shawn's responsibility to move this narrative forward. Right. It's other people's, and
sometimes those social media can really pressure.
Well, that's why I responded to. That's why I responded to Dan.
I think if the people were to respond on social media, they want to see Shawn Rhoden in that show.
My God, if they
help make it happen, you know.
Oh, you know what response can you get other than people like, "Oh my God, Dan, enough with this Kai bullshit." That's the response has been. Enough with the Kai bullshit. What about Shawn? That's exactly where it's gone, which is why Dan responded again to me like, "Well, you know,
the good thing, just
to let you know, Dan, if you're not aware of it, is that the response is overwhelming. So any response you give back to me is just like validating this weird idea of like, yes, people would love to see Kai on stage. But they are so sick and tired of the song and dance and yes and maybe and the contract and this and who knows and the hyperbole and the speeches and the hints and the innuendo.
He needs dramatic reasons, dramatic motivation. But you know what the funny thing is? Thank God we got Randy in there.
You could send Kai a contract and he might not sign it to the 11th hour. Shawn Rhoden will sign it today.
Yeah.
March 23rd or 20, whatever today's date is, 2021. It will be signed and faxed back today.
Yeah. I guarantee that.
No, for sure. I would, it's really unfortunate that, the whole mindset of the country is confounded because you're supposed to presume innocence until the pronouncement of guilt, if there is a pronouncement of guilt. Unfortunately, though, now if he had robbed a gas station, this would not be an issue. If he had cheated on his taxes, this wouldn't be an issue. But because it's a sex crime, so to speak, that's the issue. Because there was a whole political movement about believing survivors, and you got to believe the woman, and now here you've got this issue which has no place in our sport because this guy is supposedly innocent. Why is he not competing? So he's not competing because just in case he's guilty.
You want to know part? I'll give you another reason, John. And I called this out.
Send Shawn the link. Let Shawn.
I sent him. I didn't hear from him. I just sent him a link. So you have to keep this into consideration. And I said this 3 years ago on this show. I said, Dave, run the damn tape from 3 years ago. I will guarantee you this. Another girl will not come out and say, this is what he did to me. Look at Andrew Cuomo in New York. Yeah. Every day another chick says, he did this to me. He did that to me. He did this to me. You know why? Because once a thief, always a thief. Once you hit on a chick inappropriately and violate her space, her rights, let alone violating her body, you have the second one comes out after the first one has the courage to come out, the third, the fourth, the fifth. It happens with everyone. And we have dip, zip, zilch with Rhoden. Nothing.
True.
Good point.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Excellent point.
And you know how crazy people are. People would come out if he had enemies. Someone would come out just to come out and say, you know what? He did this to my boyfriend. He didn't train with him, so I'm going to say that.
But we're laughing, but unfortunately,
look,
Chris is absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if he did something wrong, then it's it still should be punished. But obviously, that's for the court to decide. Yeah,
of course. That's listen, Dave, and you said it, and that is the summation of all the chatter. You know what? It's for the court to decide. It's not for bodybuilding playmakers to decide.
Yeah. Unless
we knew, unless in this case, because you know what, there's just cowardice from the other side right now. There's what it is. It's fear, John. Mm-hmm. It's fear. It's like, and I understand that.
Because the country runs on fear.
Everything runs on fear. Dave, John, if you were in my office today, the shit that I get is just like people trying to like instill fear in me to make a decision. I just got off a conference call before this with someone. We have like a beam, getting ready to quote fall. The building's 40 years old and they want things done today. And the fear tactics they use, and I'm talking to someone, I'm on a board.
A lot of money, that's why.
They want to, and I said, you know what? We're not even going to respond. We're not even going to respond because their job is trying to get us to feel fearful so that they can say, okay, we'll make this repair. How much is it? $82,000 on a condo building.
Wow.
Well, fear, unfortunately, is the motivator that we're all used to, and the government uses it on us. We use it on each other. It's just the way it is. Look at people who complain about what the government spends money on. 88 million for this, 200 billion for that, and they're all outraged and incensed and aggravated and crying in the streets. But April 15th comes and they pay their fucking taxes and feed the machine. So
because they don't want you, because you're fearful that God forbid they don't pay their taxes.
They're afraid if they don't pay their taxes, they're going to get arrested. So it's okay that 80 million goes to spend, to give, free lunches to aliens from Mars, while veterans starve under a bridge. So they're outraged at it. But boy, April 15th comes and they're waiting at the post office.
All right, let's
That's
change
why I
gears.
moved to Mexico. Oh, that was you.
Yeah. I want to change gears for a minute. I want to talk about another unfortunate topic. Obviously,
Andy.
A very good friend to the show, to the bodybuilding community, to pretty much everyone who's been in the bodybuilding world the last 15 years and knows this person. Andy Haman passed, and tragedy. This is a person who I was very, very close to. I probably was the first person to work with him, on his diet, helped him turn pro in the Masters Nationals. He's done innumerable, shows with RX Muscle over the years, from Bros vs. Pros and all our TV shows and all his crazy antics and dressing up in costumes and all the amazing laughs and just great energy that he's given to our industry. And we lost a good one. I hate to announce these things, John, Chris. It's like every week we're announcing a new person that's left us, but he left us way too young at 55 years old. And right now, everyone's been asking me what happened, and no one really knows. There's an autopsy, but they're suspecting a possible blood clot because he had some kind of infection drained off his elbow, a couple days earlier. But no one has a definitive answer at this point. But all we do know is that we lost a great bodybuilder and man in that sense.
Yeah. God, I
Dave,
can't believe it.
Yeah, it's superb guy. End of story. You know what a good guy he is. I clicked on the link to his son, and his son, Dave, you can read the tribute. It's wonderful. It's like, don't worry, Dad. You raised me the right way. I'm going to take care of everything. Everyone's going to take care of each other.
Yeah, I know his son very well. Yeah, we talk all the time. Great kid. Great. His whole family was great. Every single one of those kids turned out amazing. He's got an amazing wife. He's like the ultimate all American family. You can't. He was a wrestling star in Iowa. He was coached by Dan Gable, who's like the best wrestling coach of all time. Andy was like a real athlete. The guy had a raw bench press of 600 pounds. Yeah. And he basically could do it all. He really had a lot of talents, and he just had a way of making people smile too. And that to me was his greatest gift, I think.
Yeah. Well,
Shame.
he was
I'm sure. I know his family's got to be crushed. I don't think they've
Oh my
processed
goodness.
it yet 100%, but
No, impossible.
yeah, and I know that. I think his wife started some kind of a fund for you can go donate to. If you check out his page, and I told his son when all this kind of all this hype and all the craziness dies down, I want to get him on and do an in-depth interview with him because they were very, very close, and I was close with both of them. So terrible. I hate renouncing this stuff, but I at the same time I want to honor these people and give them the acknowledgement for what they've done. But it does seem depressing, and I don't know if it has anything to do with COVID or if it's just bad timing, but it seems like, John, doesn't it seem like we're losing someone like every single week? I mean, this
is another. I mean, and they hit hard. They keep coming, and I don't. It really makes you wonder. Are we being singled out because of our past transgressions, or are we just in a group of people that experience the same thing that bowlers experience or whatever? But you can't help but wonder if this pursuit that we've gone on our whole lives is going to come around and bite us.
It's true. We do put our bodies on the line, so on a regular basis, and it definitely leaves you more predisposed to having, problems, muscle tears and, stuff goes wrong, when you're putting your body on the line, training at a high intensity level, stuff happens, that might not happen to the person who sits on the couch all day, or they kind of just fade away,
Yeah. Or pace themselves, right? Yeah.
I don't know if I'm, what I'm saying? It's like we are prone to more, happening to us, but I don't know. We're healthier in one sense, and maybe more. We take more risk in another sense.
Even the obvious notwithstanding, just the wear and tear. I mean, Dexter said it on Fitness, Fame, and Fortune on our podcast. He said, one of the reasons why I'm able to, keep going is because I didn't put the wear. I don't do cardio. I didn't, I only trained for an hour. I didn't put that much wear and tear on my body, as opposed to a guy who trained 2 hours a day and did 3 hours of cardio, So, there's the element of pacing yourself, but all in all, it's just hard to hear, because we look at ourselves as super healthy people, although we know it's not the most healthiest pursuit, but still we are examples of, superior physicality. And it's just really hard to swallow this stuff, Yeah.
Did you guys know, I don't know if you guys knew this guy. He also died. Erling Wahlgren. Did you guys know who this guy is?
No.
He just died the other day too. He was like one of the golden age guys.
Yeah.
Good physique, right?
Yeah, looks good there. It's got the
took third to Mr. World.
It's got the sideburns Jay used to have when Jay was.
He competed against Arnold back in the day too, supposedly. He's made films with Greta Garbo and Robert De Niro.
Oh.
He's a Swede. He's from Sweden, I guess.
I never knew who he was.
74 years old, he died.
That's still young, but that's not too
Yeah. Anyway, I think I don't want to leave out anyone, but it's crazy how many people we've lost. But I guess, like you said, John, in every industry, you're going to lose people. I mean, people die on a regular basis. Some people die younger, some people die older. That's just the way it goes, I guess. And
I know, because we're immersed in this, and people always, are ragging on us about, how unhealthy we are and blah blah blah. So it bites when it happens. But like I said, if you look at any other group of people, we're probably less likely to die of a heart attack or something else. Although I'm sure there's bro scientists out there right now, bugged out of their head, getting ready to tell me I'm wrong. But
look at like 40 of them just said you're wrong, and they said Romano's an idiot. He's wrong. You got three different languages, John.
I'm popular. Yeah, but you know what? You look at bowlers or dart players or people that make their living throwing axes in bars or whatever. Those people are dropping dead too.
People you went to high school with who are inactive, but like just played on the tennis team or whatever. You said, did you hear about so and so? He's 58. He had a heart attack.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
I mean, yeah, there's probably some connection. I mean,
do you know how many people would die when this first snow would come? It snows 2 feet. 20 guys are out there shoveling snow, dropping dead hard.
You're right. No, you're right. You're right.
No, because
we just don't happen to know them, right?
Listen,
right? Exactly.
I listen. I promised myself when I was a kid, I will never shovel snow in my life.
Because you're gonna die.
Because it was the hardest thing. And
I moved to Florida to get away from the snow.
People were like there in my area, like in the 50s or early 60s. You hear like, what happened to so and so? They'd say, he had a heart attack. Doing what? Shoveling snow, because it's such an aggressive, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot
because people try to get it done too fast. My grandfather shoveled snow in '92. He had a whole system. He used to take the shovel away from my father. My father would try to help him. He'd be like, Sal, you don't know what you're doing. You're going to hurt yourself. He said, let me finish doing this the right way.
The key to that is pacing yourself.
Yeah,
it is.
Exactly.
It is.
I moved 5 cubic yards. It's a whole dump truck, one of Jimmy's dump trucks. I moved last weekend by myself. I did it in less than a day. But low shoveling,
Right.
Yeah, but I have no time for that. That's how I shovel. I shovel like high intensity, not like.
I'm just.
Yeah, after 20 minutes, Chris and I are done. That's it. We can't go anymore.
I'm like the tortoise, man. I'll go all day.
Dave, I got a snowblower once, reluctantly, and I said, okay, I'm gonna, because I got in a fight with the guy snowblow my driveway. One day he came and he wanted to I'd pay him like $80 to snowblow the driveway, and the snow was like this deep, and I'm like, what is that noise out there? And I run out there and I come up, what are you doing here? He said, blowing the snow, and I said, it's gonna melt in like 10 minutes, and he wanted his $80. So I went out and got a snowblower.
You insulted him.
And even with the snowblower, it's something I deemed I'll never want to do again in my life. And
you still have to push the thing. Yeah,
exactly. That's right. And listen to this. God was on my side because he personally broke the snowblower. And I said, I tried. I'll never, like I said, I had to hire
never again.
Never again.
You said after World War II, never again. Yeah.
My most vivid memory as a child is of the snowblower, because the lawnmower we had I remember had 2.5 horsepower. You can see Briggs and Stratton Monger 2.5, and I thought that was I'm going to put that on my mini bike one day. I'm going to take it apart. And so my father comes home one day with a fucking snowblower, big ass snowblower, 15 horsepower, and I'm like, whoa, 15 and it had a plug. It had an electric starter, and you actually put the extension cord plug into that, the prong sticking out,
Right.
And flip the switch and it started. And I was about, 4 or 5 years old, and he's got out there taking me out there, we're going to start this thing up. He was like, oh, it's because it finally snowed enough to use the damn thing. And opens the garage door. There's 2 feet of snow, right pushed against the door. And he starts that thing up in the garage, and it sounded like a fucking, I thought it was a Talladega. And it scared the shit out of me. And he puts it in drive, and had these metal wheels with these cleat teeth on them, and no rubber. And it starts going out of the driveway like this. As soon as it hit that snow, it starts shot it like 20 feet in the air. That was the coolest thing ever, man. And from that day, I wanted to do the snow blowing, but he wouldn't let me.
Yeah,
I couldn't reach the handle.
Yeah, I just got a text message from Andy Haman's son. They said that he has passed from a pulmonary embolism, so it was a clot brought on by elbow surgery 3 days prior. So that's the official cause of death. So you never know. It's crazy.
How did that happen, Dave?
I don't know. The funny thing, not the funny thing, I almost bled to death on the table. I'm a bleeder. When I go for surgery, they can't stop the bleeding for me, which is good because it leaves me less likely to have clots. But when you have surgery or you have an infection, it's very easy for something to dislodge itself, and then if it goes to your lungs, you die instantly. I mean, it's like instant death, essentially. Crazy. On a more warmer note, they had the best bencher in the world competition. Will Baratti won 1,090-pound bench press. He won the competition. It was all 1,000-pound bench pressers.
Wow.
Ryan Kennelly, Scott Mendelson, Tiny Meeker, Jimmy Kolb, all these guys who bench pressed 1,000 were invited to see who's the best bencher of all time. Will Baratti actually has the world record at 1,100 pounds. Now, this is equipped, obviously, not raw.
Right.
So pretty amazing when you think about it. Almost 1,100 pounds. This guy bench pressed, and we used to make a joke when Jimmy Pilecki used to do those crazy, demonstrations back in the 90s, that no one would ever really bench press that, for real.
Right.
And they're doing it nowadays regularly. So congratulations to Will Baratti.
Wow. That's
Pretty amazing. That Julius Maddox, though, is really impressive to me. He's the raw bench presser that's almost got 800 pounds,
Yeah.
That's even more impressive. Actually, Andy Haman was a great bench presser. I saw him do 600 in a tank top.
Raw. Yep.
Raw.
Yep.
In the gym, just with a tank, like a Pilecki type of bench press.
Yeah.
But all the way down, all the way up, no spot or nothing. Just racked it himself and everything.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? I never understood how people were so strong.
Wow. It's nuts.
To me, I wasn't a very strong guy when I first started. I was strong, but I wasn't like crazy strong. I got stronger as I got bigger. But there are guys that even when they first start out are crazy strong. And I never understood that whole concept of why some people just have this innate strength, whether they have muscle on their body or not. They can just move weight.
I think it has to do with tendon attachments.
Maybe.
The further away from the fulcrum you get, the more mechanical advantage you have. So the people that have the tendons insert further down the bone are going to have more mechanical advantage. So you're talking millimeters here that make a difference.
It's really impressive what some of these guys can do. And I love the strength sports. I take my hat off to these guys that do this crazy stuff, because they're basically laying their body on the line. I mean, it's almost like they're under a guillotine if you think about it, right? I mean, they can be decapitated by this, That's how crazy what they're doing is.
And there's no stops. That bar's coming down and hitting your neck.
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's nuts when you think about it. What they do.
Think about coming down with that. What if your pec rips or your bone breaks, or what's a thought kind of fucking weight, man?
Speaking of a pec ripping, have you seen this Ryan Crowley video?
No.
You know who Larry Wheels? Larry Wheels is like an international celebrity now. He's like one of the strongest guys I've ever seen. He can do it all. Essentially, this guy. He actually did one of our Bros versus Bros, John. One of the original ones we did at Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym back in the day. You probably don't even remember him, but he was in that. He's living in like Dubai now. He basically just makes millions of dollars off of probably social media, off of YouTube. He's got like a crazy channel. He was bench pressing with this Ryan Crowley kid. I'm gonna play the video because it's so insane.
Dave, you told me don't watch the videos.
yeah. I think Chris don't watch the
I don't know what Dave said.
Dave
told me you don't want to see it, and now he's going to show it.
Yeah, I'm going to show it. I got it because
it makes my balls cringe.
This is 485 on an incline.
Oh, I saw this. Fuck! Oh my god! You're going to make me watch.
That's Larry Wheel spotting him.
Right there.
The pec just completely exploded. Ripped right off. It wasn't as bad. I wouldn't have showed if it really wasn't that. It could have been worse.
No, from that other angle, you can see it sticking way up when he comes down.
Yeah,
right?
You just see it pop off there. Yeah. So that was pretty brutal. So I feel bad for him. You know why? Because he has he's got a really good physique. He was just really coming up, and sometimes you get carried away. That was a lot of weight on there. I never went over 455, and I to be honest with you, mostly I never went over 400, and even that was very heavy because if you move an inch or to the left or right, even though I could do 6 good reps with it, it was still scary proposition to be doing that on a regular basis. And 485 is a lot of weight, guys, on an incline, so
Nuts.
sometimes you got to think maybe I shouldn't go that heavy. This is, really not that necessary, to have big pec muscles, 405 is pretty heavy, 485 is almost like going into that rarefied air where no one else does that kind of stuff. But
as Haney would say, stimulate, don't annihilate.
You know what happens? You train with a guy like Larry Wheels, who's so strong. You think you're a pussy if you don't keep up with him. That's what it is.
Try to keep up.
Yep.
Yeah. So I know he was in Dubai with him. I think he got surgery like the next day. So I'm hoping that he's going to be recovering quickly from that. The good thing is, I think personally that when you tear it off the tendon off the bone, you're better off doing that than the intramuscular tear, because those intramuscular tears you really can't fix because they leave big divots. Whereas with a tendon, repair like Lebroni had back early in his career, it kind of does it's pretty close to normal when they're finished.
Yeah,
the guy's good who does it.
The tendon's it's intact enough, they can drill a hole and stick it in the bone. Yep.
They can pull that whole tendon back. It might be a little short, but you're not going to see a huge gap. You remember Alex Fedorov had that huge pec tear?
Yep.
And just didn't look good, Even Tony Freeman, his was fixed, but it was that intramuscular tear too. It was a little short. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that always kind of, plagued them because your pecs are so visible, on a bodybuilding stage. It's your pecs and your abs are the first things you really see, so any kind of disturbance in that is obviously, definitely going to hurt you when the judges are voting, so. Look, when I tore my quad, I was like, at least I wasn't competing, but I was like, you know what? It's like when you first do it, you're like, oh, I'm never going to get back. And you got to just take this attitude. Hey, you know what? Things happen. I'll get through it. Let me just do my diligence, get the right surgeon, get the right repair, do the rehab, take my time. Bodybuilding is a long sport. It's a long haul sport. It's not a short sprint. So you're going to have things that pop up that set you back, and it's how you deal with those adversities that really make you the competitor you are. Dorian tore his bicep right before that Olympia, and came back from it. He had a lot of other tears too that he came back from because he was a true champion. He found a way to win, and that's what you got to do. So,
yep.
Hopefully Ryan takes some of that to heart. All right. Anything else you guys want to bring up before we wrap this thing up?
I'm good.
All right. Well, we wish the family of Andy Haman, of course, all the best. Let me just hold on. I think there's a GoFundMe. Let me see. Let me just pull this up here. Andy Haman Memorial Fund, organized by Michelle Haman, which is his wife. Go to the GoFundMe page and you can see it. You can donate to that. Hopefully people will contribute to that and, help out. Anyway, it's a very sad day, obviously, when we found out about Andy. And I want to send my prayers out to his family and to his son and to his daughters. And I know they'll get through this, but it's a tough pill to swallow, of course. On a better note, guys, I am still alive. I know some of you wish that I didn't make it, but I did make it, and I'm going to be around to torture you guys for a lot longer. Yeah. Thanks for all the support, all the well wishes I got from all the fans out there. It was really great. It really lifted me up a lot. I want to just thank them, and of course you guys as well. And that's it. As we say every week, remember, guys, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Sure does. We will see you next week.